Question 9.
Yes.
Are we gonna work with like graphic user interfaces in Python?
Yeah, if we get to it, that will be after when we talk about class.
Okay.
So because you have to understand, because the UI has a lot of the class component, even the built-in, some of the built-in modules that you seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will. I want to at least get to it, but you know, we're gradually getting there. So this is 8. I think if we keep going with 2 chapter per week, we'll get at the end of the text it talks about object and class. So by that point we'll be able to do some, we'll take a look at some of the module that we can incorporate.
Okay.
So, yeah, you don't have to write a lot of things from scratch. You can bring in libraries and modules, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think in some of the other ones, you know, it all depends writing script, and yeah, you can build UI to make your project look nicer. So, but yeah, I was just checking out the lab to see how slow it is. Because, yeah, it was actually pretty okay earlier today. And then right now I try to launch like a few things on it. It does get a little slower, but as more people are hopping on it, probably. So, okay, maybe there will be others that will be joining us. This is such a small class. So, you excited about Cal State San Bernardino?
Yeah. Um, I'm just like I don't know if I've told you. Well, I don't know if I mentioned it
Yeah.
earlier. I did like crap. So I got Moreno Valley to do my academic renewal. So I'm at 3.8 here for RCC overall.
Uh-huh.
But I started in Santa Ana College. In Santa Ana College,
Oh,
I felt all my like 6 classes,
okay.
and I came when I came here, I had like a 1 point something.
Mm-hmm.
So
But you improved though.
no, yeah. I mean, if you look at my transcripts from then and now, you're like completely different person. I think I've only
Well, that because you know you matured with age too. You weren't
exactly,
ready for school. Uh-huh.
yeah. So yeah, I think I've all A's except for like 3 classes I got B's, which is biology, geography, and um, what's it called? C plus plus 17C or 17A, one of those two. I
Okay.
took it with fast. The reason I got a B is because he's very technical on his tests,
Okay.
and you know how as a programmer when you write the program you test and see what if it's correct, right? You learn by by like repetition, like oh you keep testing your program if it breaks, well if it's not working then you know what you need to fix because it tells you the syntax error, whatever error you have. So that's how I learn. Like I write as much until I break the program and I see what's broken, and then I was like, okay, now I know. That's how I learned. So when with Mr. Fast, his tests are very technical. So he gives. I remember the test. He gives you a like a the code, and you're supposed to know exactly what's wrong with the code. I'm like, you look at the code, it looks good. I mean, I'm not gonna. I'm
Well,
sure.
yeah.
I'm
So
so,
he.
I'm supposed to know, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, uh, my whole point is like I have run the code to see what's wrong, and then I go back and fix it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I got a B on this test. I mean, I got a
Yeah. So at that level, they expect you to know more of the smaller details. So
Mhm.
that was the data structure one, right? Or just A 17A?
I think 17A.
Oh, okay. That was the first C++.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you know, Mr. Fast has different expectation because he gone through the computer science side. So that,
Yeah.
you know, that is actually a good perspective to instill in the student, and versus, you know, like my husband said, he said I'm way too easy on my students.
I know. Honestly, Professor, you're very you know what you should do, and keep meaning to tell you this. You should, when you write a program, you should not do the answer for us. You should do something
Well, I
simple.
know. Yeah,
Do
so
something-
I try to do that, but you know, I mainly don't want, because for me when I learned something, I also
Yeah,
wanted to look at the answer as well, even though I solve it, right? I
yeah,
wanted to see how people solve it, because that teaches me different ways to solve a problem.
yeah,
Um, so that mainly it's because that's how I learn. But
yeah.
yes, you're right. But you know, because it's an intro class, I don't mind
Hmm.
doing it, but more of the advanced level, I won't do it. You
Yeah,
know,
because I mean,
because before I never did it for 17A or you know, even some of the intro like JavaScript.
yeah,
I do similar program and I would show them and then they have to figure it out. But
yeah,
yeah, so yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Maybe because in my online class, I don't do all the programs. I just do some of the programs.
yeah,
All right, so let's talk about the lab for today. It's actually less than an hour if you get good bandwidth, okay? So I want to run through some of the things that you need to watch out for from the beginning of the lab. So it's really cool, the fact that you actually evaluating email and Facebook in this one. So I was just going through to make sure that I extracted everything that I needed, because that takes the longest sometimes just to download when the traffic gets a little full. So you are mainly going to use Windows 8.1, which is the Win 810 on the virtual machine in Practice Lab. So when you click on the lab this week, you will see a link, right? And then you click that and it's going to open up your practice lab and it's going to start with the introduction, and the next page is page 2. It's going to lead you to exercise 1. The steps are very similar to some of the other labs in that you would use OS Forensic, but in this particular exercise, you are going to look at email instead of, we've been looking at drives, and last time we looked at RAM, and also storage. So what we have is here, we are going to use the DD application, which was used to create the image of the drive, and there will be a couple images that you're going to use. One of them is going to come from a USB, which you have to download. So in this case, they tell you to go to see work data files, and so you simply in the file management of the virtual machine, you can navigate through it by just clicking C, okay, and then go to work, open, double click that, data, files, and then chapter 11. Okay. So in here, what they're saying is that you need to make, I'm sorry, you need to go in chapter 9 and then you need to download this. And then you are going to extract the actual file to this destination. So once you get it from chapter 9, this is what it looks like. Let me go back to the, so it's here, it's this guy right here, okay? When you right click it, what you can do is you can have it open and then you can type in the extraction path. So at this point, don't just click extract, you would click browse. Okay, don't forget to browse C to the C drive, okay, and then go to the work folder and then go down to the data files, okay, and then navigate to chapter 11. That's where they want you to put it, okay? So don't forget, for the DD, we want to extract it there. So once you extracted the destination and you put it in the drives folder, and if it's not there, just make it, right? Like click new folder and then make the drive folder. And I had to do that earlier because it was deleted somehow. So then click OK, and then you will be able to extract. So make sure that we browse to the path and extract. I already did that, so I'm not going to do that again. So you can verify this by going back to data files and then go to chapter 11, and you should have it extracted. It will be like this, .dd. Okay, and remember, recall this from the second week. We use this to analyze or create actual copy of the image of the system, the drive, etc. So we can use it, and in this case, it's for the NTFS, okay, which is for Windows. So after you do that, for the first part, after you extract DD, okay, then what you're going to do is you are going to open up OS Forensic, and you're familiar with that from the last few labs. And so in Windows 8, that's really easy. We would go to the Windows button. We don't call that start button anymore. And then what you would do, let me minimize this, is you would click on the search, and then you type in OS Forensic. Okay, and then launch that. Okay, so once that's launched, it's going to ask you this, and you're going to click yes. Okay, and that's going to come up. So I think I have some of that already open. So we're going to use the free version that they have. That's okay. And in here, you're going to create a new case. Just like last week, in that case, you're going to use a certain file, you're going to browse to it, you're going to create index, and you're going to search the index. And in this time, we're going to index it for email instead of for other things that we've been doing. So every week that I hope you remember, if not, you can go back and try to see if you can redo the lab. If it's already locked you out, send me an email and then I can activate it again for you. Okay, so in OS Forensic, once you have it open, after you click the Windows button, it would look like that, which we saw on the virtual machine. Then you are going to click the briefcase to make a new case, and then you are going to give this a name, in Chap 11. And then you type in your full name in the investigator field, and you can put in organization, you can put your college name, etc., and then click OK. So we want to make sure we fill that out when we create a new case. Okay. Then once you have that new case, it's going to tie that to it. It's going to show that there, and I have it. I'll show you. So here is the case, and I already have it indexed. So so once you have the case, you can select it, and then you're going to add the device. And after we click add device, we're going to browse to that DD, that image file. Okay, so it's going to tell you to select image, and then you're going to click browse, and then you're going to go to C drive, work data files, chapter 11 drive, and we're going to get the DD file that we just extracted, and then you're going to click open. Okay, so once you have that, so it would show up on the, I already have it indexed on the device. Okay, then you can select it, and then you are going to create an index, and it's going to walk you through that. So I'm just trying to speed up the process because in this, sometimes it's fast and slow response. So in step 5, you're adding the image file, which is the .dd file that you extracted. Okay, so we navigate to work data files, chapter 11 drives that we saved there when we extracted. find the ntfs.dd, click open. So in OS Forensic, it will be no good if we don't have any image to start. So if you're given a system, what you can do is you can first use a tool to create some kind of image, and .dd is common to use unless you use like FTK or Xways or something like that. Then you would have their own files, but it can also be converted to DD file. We talked about that at the beginning. So once you selected the image, you are going to create an index, okay? So in the OS Forensic, we know that if your managed cases here, there's your create index. And this allows us to narrow down our search to specific areas. So when you click create index, and you can select specific index. So I already have the index created to show you. Now, for email, we want to select email and attachment. So there's 2 checkboxes in the window, the prompt that it gives you at the top. So make sure that you select those for the file types. And because we're investigating email this week, we are to select email and attachments, okay? So once you have that, you just click add, and then you're going to add a drive, okay? So what it's asking here is, it's saying, where is it gonna look? Where is it gonna look? Where's the start location? And you can point to the drive by selecting the whole drive of the image that you have extracted, okay? Because most image files compress, we have to decompress it, and then we're gonna navigate to that. So once we extract it, we browse to it in OS Forensic, we link that image, then we can say it's a drive inside that image. So we're looking for that drive, okay? Now, so once you have this here, it's you would simply start indexing. And it takes a little bit, not too long. So it's gonna show you something like this. And then after you index, you are to search inside the index. So we have to index in order to search. We saw that in the last few labs as well for drives and cloud storage. So in the search option, they want you to put in money, okay? And this is a case regarding fraud. So what we want is we want to search an email that has the word money, okay? And so once you put in the criteria, you click search, and it's gonna give you, right, like a list of like 2 or 3 items or so. And you are going to click the bike specs one. We're gonna look at that one, okay? And you kind of can see a little bit of the header with the preview there. So when we open it up to view, you might get this script error message. And it tells you to go ahead and click yes. And it's slow to go now. But anyway, so once we get through the index and search through the index, okay, once it tells you successfully index it, we are to search for money. So we already gone through that step, and then you're gonna open it. Let me try it again. Okay, right click, open. I don't know, I'm not getting, oh, maybe it's already, hold on one second. Let me see if it's, okay, yeah, it's already on another window. So it would look like this. Okay, important, we talked about the email header, what's in it, what's essential, what do we need to look at, right? And we would see communication, different communication that would tie. So in this one, let me see. It's might be tiny for you to look at, so you can expand and zoom in, but it shows you your SMTP, which is your protocol. It also shows you the domain. We talked about the domain, right? And the IP addresses and the date, all of that good stuff is here. It shows you that. It also have who's to receive the email, who is it from, and then it's also going to go into some of the, like the MIME version. We talked about MIME in the lecture. And this is an AOL webmail, and AOL is still around. Some people still use it. It's not that popular anymore, but we would see the type of server that's been used to transfer the mail, and it would give you information. So we care about that. We care about who sends it, who receives it, when it was received, what type of system was used to transmit it, okay? And then in addition, it also have in reply to. Oh, and remember we talked about the value that's here. So 2000, 2007, this value right here indicate also timestamp and ID information for the user. So that's important to look at, and that's important to record for your report realistically. Okay, so what that would do is it's giving you information about that email, and they want you to take a look at the header closely so you can know how to evaluate it. Okay, any question? So in the next part, what we're going to have is we are going to make a folder called projects folder, and it's in chapter 11, data files, work, and see. So you can, after you're done with this, you can close that out, right? You can close that OS forensic. That way it kind of minimizes RAM use. So, okay. So going back to our file manager here, and we can navigate to C, we can go to work, we can go to data files, we can go to chapter 11, and then we simply right click, right, choose new, and then folder, and you can call this projects. Okay, so with that we have to make that folder called projects, and it tells you where that to be located. That's on the bottom of page 2, step 22. Now because we're going to get into the hands-on project part, so in the project 11-1, what we need to do is we need to extract a few things, and this might take a few minutes to download. So first we are to extract 8 for mail setup.zip. Okay, this is a tool that we would use to read mail. Then we would extract Office Professional 2007.zip, and inside Office there would be Outlook feature and other applications. So you need to do that. Okay, so where do we get that from? It tells you to get it from the intranet, and we're familiar with that. So open up your IE, and it would look like this. Then you go to Tools, then you go to Data Forensic for the first one, and then you would go 8 for mail setup.zip. You would download that one. Once it's downloaded, you can simply extract it. Okay. For the second one to download the Office, we need to go back to Tools, and I think we have to go to Win 7. Windows 7. And then there's your EN Office Professional. If it's not already there, sometimes it's already there, then you can just extract the zip file. I found that I already have one, but I ended up downloading it just to make sure that I checked the speed for that, the performance. So here are my downloaded files, okay? Then what we do is we can right click it and then we can extract all. And if we click extract, it will just put it in the downloads folder for the extracted file. And the same thing with aid for mail setup. So once it's extracted, it shows you these unzipped or decompressed folder. Then next, what we'll do is it's gonna tell you, sorry, I cut this off over here, to install the Office setup. And then you don't have to put in the product key. You're just gonna go continue and then close when it's done. So how do we install that? We just open up the extracted folder, and then you would have this Office setup, which is the install file, and then you're gonna click yes. And the wizard's gonna launch. You don't have a product key, so just click continue. And it says you may run the program with limited number of times. So after that, it's just gonna not allow you to use a lot of the functionality. You're gonna click yes. I'm sorry. No. Okay, click no. And then accept license and term agreement from Microsoft. Click continue and then click install. So this is gonna take about a minute or so, sometime a little longer depending on the traffic, but it should be all right. So we have to download the zip file, extract the zip file, install the Microsoft Office 2007 on Windows 8.1. And again, you can find the steps for that in the manual. It shows you go to Internet Explorer, Tools, and then Windows 7. And then prior to that, you have to download aid for mail setup.zip. Okay? And so that would be, so we're right here. Now, in this step, what they want you to do is to go to the GitHub. This GitHub is maintained by Eric Saibi, and so he's a trader on Enron, and we can go to here, see the list of Enron employees. And are you familiar with Enron? You know what happened to Enron? There was a huge fraud case. So a lot of the security things that we're implementing today, it started because of Enron. So there were a lot of inside trading that was happening, right? And then there was a lot of fraudulent activity that happened, and this was in the early 2000s. So after Enron, they implemented different compliance. One of the compliance is SOX, and that requires companies that are trading in the stock market to periodically report, right, their gain and losses, their financial status. So for example, if you're looking at Facebook, Facebook is one of the publicly traded company, meaning that you can buy their stock, or Google or Microsoft, any of the publicly traded company, when they're selling stock option, they have to comply with SEC, where they would report, and they normally do quarter reporting or sometimes even monthly reporting on how the company is performing, because this is to protect the consumer, where people, an investor, right? People, the public in general, where people would buy stock and not knowing you know, so the company status would really correlate to the portfolio, where it would say, okay, well, this company is gaining or losing and so forth, in, you know, in based on their financial health. And it's important to do this so that way we can track and see if there's not a lot of internal fraud with executives. Okay, so that is kind of like a summarized version of Enron, but there had been many documentaries and movies that are made from Enron. So when you have some time, you can watch it. It's very interesting. And that is, you know, tied back to criminal investigation. So I'm going to just use my browser to open this up, but you would do, oh, what happened? You would do this on, so get this link. Let me see if I can open it up in the, so open it up in the actual Internet Explorer here. Let me see. I'm running like 5 different processes, so hold on. There we go. Another tab, please. Yeah, it's not. Oh, I forgot. I have to copy and paste it. So put in the URL and then you would visit it. So you would see different Enron employees and their position that's held with the company. And he was a trader there. And many of the traders, they hold a lot of power in this company back then, because that kind of give you some ideas. And you know, there was secretive encoded messages that's being exchanged, so that way, you know, there are people that would trade certain options. So it was very interesting. So once you have the, once you visit the site, you're going to download this zip file, which contains the information of the employees and stuff like that. Then you are going to save it into, make sure that we save it into Chapter 11 folder. Okay, and then extract it. So what we're going to do there is we are going to use a tool, the Aid for Mail tool, to read the content of the email that was exchanged, okay, between the employees. Okay, so that's why you downloaded the tool, and you would use this tool to evaluate the mail or analyze the mail. So we saw that in the previous exercise, right, we can index some email and then search it for the group of email that would have that keyword, and we would see the header for the email. With this one, we can use an actual application that would use to evaluate the mail. So we would tie this forensic tool with Outlook. That's why we installed the Microsoft Office Exchange, and be able to look at the mail. Okay, so there are 2 levels in that. Keep in mind that when you research or when you're gathering evidence from mail, you have to utilize different tools to be able to do this. Okay, so this would be using with Microsoft Office. Now, let me see if it's actually responding. I don't think I have. Okay, yeah, that was a little. So once you install that, you would use that with the mail setup. Let me go and see if I can have that. So we would install this and run it with Microsoft Office or Microsoft Outlook. Okay, so while it's going, I'm gonna move forward. Here, what it does is it's gonna give you the mappy folders. This allows you to filter down your search, okay, where you would put in the criteria. So That way we don't have to look at a lot of things. We can censor it down to what we would use. And often you would see the .csv file right here, or the XML file format. And that's, a lot of the times, that's what we want. Okay. So we would be able to export the metadata, which is inside those type of file. Okay. So you would try to export the CSV file and store it inside the hands-on 11-1, which is the folder that you created. Okay, any question? Okay, so once you start processing it, what you will see is you would see, like we talk about how there's target information, there's source that will tell you who sends it or where it's coming from. Okay, and so it will tell you from the location, it will tell you the target, it will tell you some of the information that we want to be able to include in the reporting. So, and it would give you a long list of your PST file. Okay, remember how we talk about different type of files for mail, like OST, PST is what you look at when you deal with metadata. And also when you start evaluating portions, sections of the header itself. Okay, so the 8 for mail here, that allows us to convert the email to the CSV format, and then we would be able to open this up in a spreadsheet. So it would dump all of this data onto a spreadsheet where we can sort it and we can view it. Okay, so this shows you how you can do a text import. And if you know how to write the script to pull in text, you can do this automatically. But you know, if you're using the program, you have to select it and be able to pull it in. So when you look through the email, it's important that we look at some of the information that would relate to the scandal, Enron. Okay, what is indicated in the mail? Now, they tell you that you can look at the user manual for this software and to see how you can view it easier. They would give you tips on how to kind of look through the data quicker. So here it shows you how you can do that. Okay. All right. So that exercise, this took me a little bit of time to download, extract, install. And so I don't have the full demo for that for you here. But once you have it installed and get to the application to work, you can take that file and then the CSV file and then convert it into text, and then, you know, put that onto like a spreadsheet format, so that way you can quickly look through it, or you can carefully look through it, I should say. Okay, as everybody's on it, it does take a little bit of time, especially if we're on Zoom. Okay, any question with project 11.1? So what I'm putting together for your final project for this course is something similar to what we've been doing so far. So you will get an image, and you will use the tool that you know to evaluate that image, and your objective would be to look for files, to look for content on Drive, possibly things that have been deleted, to look for email that was sent from that image. Okay, and I will give you hint and clues on what type of email, and to look for cloud connection like OneDrive. Okay, and I'm going to use Microsoft virtual machines, like virtual machine that's Windows based, I should say. and then I will put things on image for you. If it's too large for me to put it on cloud and share it with you, I will mail you the USB. In that case, I will ask you for your home address. I don't have access to that, so I will message you individually and ask for that, and then I will put it in on an envelope in an anti-static bag and everything, and then you get it. Once you get it, you will go through the process. So your output from your project is to really understand the whole process, right? Going through the process like these, and to compile a report that you can eventually use for companies or in litigation. All right. Okay. In 11.2 is similar to our last lab in such that we will download the USB image. Let me see, I did some of this. So when you download, you simply go to your intranet. Let me go back to here. Okay, so open up your Internet Explorer, and then you are going to go to your tools, and then we're going to go to data forensic, and then we're going to download this USB.zip just like last week. So what we have once we downloaded, it would have the zip folder like this. Okay. Now, before you extract it, make sure that you look at the destination that they want you to put it in. Okay. So, actually on this one, yeah. So when you extract it, you would select the destination, and then you would point to, so you would browse to Chapter 11 USB. So I'm going to show you that real quick. So before I extract this, after I downloaded the USB for Project 11.2, I would right click it. I would go open. I'm sorry. It's already, I'm sorry. Extract all, and then browse. And then you're going to go to C. So this PC, and scroll down to C, and then data files, or work, and then data files. Okay, work folder, data files, and then we're gonna go to Chapter 11. Now you will see that there's no USB folder in there. In the case that you don't have the USB folder, just click make a new folder and type in USB so you have it. Okay, so make sure under Chapter 11, put it in a USB folder. Otherwise, your files are just going to hang out with the rest of the other files and folders in Chapter 11. So we want to put it into a subdirectory called USB. So if you don't have that, make a folder. I didn't have it when I did this step, so I just make a new folder, and that will be there. So it should extract it into here. So once you have all your paths set up for the extraction, click OK. I'm gonna, because I already extracted this, so I'm gonna cancel, and then we're gonna extract. Okay. So you can verify it to make sure that it's there by going to C, work folder, data files, and then Chapter 11 and USB. Okay. Now notice that when you look at this image from the USB, the image that they gave you here that you downloaded, there are many people USB, not just, no, last week I think, or the week before, we look at Charlie work, right? So we got Joe favorite USB, Joe work USB, Terry work USB. So in the case where if we're investigating USB, these, and when you see the file extension E01, that's an image, okay? And earlier chapters talk about what type of tool created this type of image. So we can either, you know, in a drive, it could be .dd, or another image would be formatted using this file extension. So these are all USB image. And for us today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Joe's USB, this one. Okay. So for the step, what it did was it have you extracted. Once you extract it, you would have these images. And then you are going to use Pro Discovery. And that's one of the tools that we've been using since Lab 2. Okay. So we can launch Pro Discovery. It's on the desktop of the virtual machine. So if you minimize all the windows here, like I have all the windows open because I want to show you how to install some of this stuff. So let me click install here. So it would have the investigator icon with the guy with the black hat there. Okay. So you would click the shortcut on the desktop called Pro Discovery. It's this one right here to launch it. Okay. And with Pro Discovery, what we can do is we will add the image, the one that we just extracted from USB. We would find it. And so we want to get the Joe's favorite USB. There's two Joe, right? Joe favorites and Joe work. So we're gonna link this image to the Pro Discovery software, and so that way we can do the content search. So you're gonna search for two things in the criteria. You're gonna search for kitty and kitten. Okay, let me open that up so you can see. Okay, so to make a new file in Pro Discovery, we already learned this from last time, but just to review, right? Once you have a new project, you can go File, New Project, and then you can name it. So in this case, they want us to name it Joe's hard drive. Then once you have the new project created, then you can go to Action, and then you would add an image file. Once you select that, you can pinpoint the favorite USB of Joe's here, and then click Open. That's how we would link the image to our software. Okay? Any question? So at this point, what we have is we can put in a search criteria. Okay? I started searching, so you can see some search result there, but you can click this search option on the menu. That's what it tells you to do in the lab. And we can search for, because we don't know what the files could be, right? Because we're looking at possibly web or email, we can look at pattern, okay? And so here we simply just use pattern, and then you can type in kitty and then press enter for the next line, and then kitten. And if you have more criteria or more pattern you want to seek, you can add more to that. Okay. Then what it's going to do is it's going to seek through the image that you link when you add the image. So once I put in the pattern, I would click OK, and it's going to go. And then once it finished, it's going to give me the result. Okay. So here are some of the recognized patterns from that. Any question? So now just to capture from what we've been doing, right? Like in any case, we would have an image. If we don't have that, we would create it and we would use it to evaluate. We don't evaluate the live machine, right? We would take an image of that, evaluate it, and within that, we can use the tool to look at different areas. And that's what we've been doing so far. So right now, what we're doing is we're looking at web and email content. Okay. Now you would get the output like this, and you don't have to save your project, but in reality, right, realistically in the real world, you want to save your project. Okay, so because it's, you know, for practice lab, they tell you to click no here. So let's look at what we're seeing. All right, so in every single one, you're gonna get some file extension like this, okay? And then it tells you the date created, which is in 2009, November 20th, and going all the way through 23rd. So there's some modification in that. So it tells us about the timestamp of that, of each of the result. And also it tells us more. It tells us what type of file that is or what that would relate to. Okay. So now it tells you where it is in the hierarchy. Remember in my notes, it has like all the little subfolder where it would be all buried. Okay, so what it's saying here is that within this image, what we see is we see all of these directories within. There's some stuff that was also in trash or recycle there. Okay, and then there's some papers. So there are a lot of the PDFs file. So if you really want to look around, you can also look at these. Okay. And so in this, what we can do is if we're looking for specific things, then we can search. We can narrow down the content, but since we're only searching for pattern, it's going to give you what would be related to that pattern. And then from that, you have to drill it down further, right? Like I was looking for kitty and kitten. So that can be a very large scope. Okay, so in the case earlier, we were searching for money. What if our company is about financial, right? That would be a very large scope just to search for money. So we have to now drill it down to the next level and the next level and the next level. So we have to look for specific files from specific user, right, at that window of time. So if I am in, you know, a different month, I'm way off, right? So we can start looking at like a specific timeline. Remember how we talk about establishing that timeline? So instead of looking around and possibly making mistakes, so we can scope it to what that window of time would be when that incident occurs or right near that incident. So if it's on that date or right a little bit before that date, we can start looking, and then a little bit after that date, the post. So what you want is you want that window to, otherwise you're just gonna start looking everywhere and it's gonna waste your time. All right, so any question? So with this, what we have is we look at the output from Pro Discover Basic. It's going to give you a list, and when you click on one, there's some details of this. You can find bits and pieces of text that would be displayed from that. And then, you know, from an investigator standpoint, the next step would be that you would draft a report. What did you find, right? Putting down the timestamp, the content, source, destination, the details of this. And we did that with Network Miner at the beginning. I show you what kind of field that you want to put in so you can put together a document. And you would have to type out some paragraph explaining some of the things, and that is when our technical skills would come in handy. Okay. Any question regarding using Pro Discovery with the USB image? This one is really cool than the next one. I'm excited that they use this in practice lab. So this one is to look at social media, and it's really, really hard to escape from this now from every standpoint, right? Like even when people try to stay away from social media, they might be linked to social media somehow by family members or acquaintances. So in this tool, what we're going to use is we're going to use Facebook Forensic version 294. So to download this, what you need to do is you need to, again, go back to your intranet, which is where we get most of our files that Practice Lab is releasing. You would go to Tools and then Data Forensic. So once you get to the tools, click on Data Forensic. Then what you see is you would see, oh, here's the Eric sciB.zip2 in case. So right underneath that, you would see the Facebook Forensic. And then you want to download it. Okay. So once you click download, that takes about 4 or 5 minutes. And it would be in your downloads folder. So, and again, it's a compressed file. So what you would do is you would right click it and then extract all. And once you extract it, it would look like this. Then open it up, and then you're gonna run the setup. We don't need the Chrome setup. We can, here's the installation for the file, or the application. So once you launch it, it just requires a few steps to authorize the installation, right? First, Windows Firewall is gonna pop up and say, do you wanna install this? Click yes. And then you go through the wizard. So just click next and then install now. With after you install, that takes a few minutes, then you can run the Facebook Forensic Toolkit. Okay. Now, when you get prompted with this, you're going to click the first option. It's going to say examine profile and clone data. Then once we have that, what we will do is we want to make a new case. And remember, every time that we use a forensic tool, we want to set up a folder, right, where we would put our reports, our files, everything inside that folder. So what we have is we have a hands-on project folder, but we need to create it, right, in order to be able to have it and use it. So what they want here is they show you that you can make a new case. Okay, so let's look at that. So once you click a new case, you would click browse, and then I simply go to C drive, and I want to navigate down to my work folder, which is, you know, that's where we keep all our forensic investigation stuff for practice lab, data files, and then I wanted to go to chapter 11. and then I want to make a folder. Okay, so let me drag this to the right a little bit. So we want to make a new folder called hands-on 11.3. I think that's what it wants. Let me double check. Yep, 11.3. And click OK. Okay, any questions? So don't forget, make a folder there. Now, the case number, it depends on the organization. We discussed this since the beginning. Many investigators would use some kind of, text indication of specific case, not the full thing, and then they also put the date. Okay, and then the evidence number, we want to fill in that area. So here, what it tells you to do is for the case number, you want to use today's date. So you can put 10/14/2020 and then your name. So I'll do that for you so you can see. Okay. And then you are the examiner, so put in your full name. So on the new case target account on the bottom, right, right beneath your case number, what you can do is you can put in the target account and they have you put in Albert Einstein, and then you're gonna go for clicking the blue button. So we want to append the name to the URL tag. So what that will do is, so let's say that if I'm looking for Joe Smith, right? What we will append to is we would take Joe Smith, possibly a profile name, and tie it to facebook.com. So it'll be facebook.com and it's gonna look for Joe Smith. So this way we're checking the URL for Albert Einstein profile on facebook.com. Okay. Sorry, it's just, we have several things running. Now, in the notes, you can also indicate some notes for you to keep pertaining to that file if you're looking. So social media is so important, especially in all kinds of cases now. So that's why digital forensic is essential in a lot of the areas. When you're looking at murder case, when you're looking at fraud case, when you're looking at so many different cases where because people use it so much, right? Okay. Oh yeah, I want my case information. So fill in the rest of this: evidence number, notes, browse. So if you're looking for a specific individual, you can append again using that, and this is a good tool to do that. So it's going to acquire the evidence, and it's also going to give you some basic information, posts, etc. Now Facebook had implemented, privacy because of their recent lawsuit. So what will happen is that you will come across things that would not be available because it's not public, right? So remember, we talked about the ownership of this. So when we have court order, we would require a court order when we don't have consent. And when we get the court order, we can submit that court order directly to the service provider, which is going to be Facebook. Or even for internet service provider, especially if we're dealing with something that could be traffic related or internet access related. Okay. Especially with computer abuse and such. So what you have is we would acquire the evidence looking at the content of the capture. It's going to give you restricted private and public information. Public is going to be, of course, most of you are aware of this if you use social media. That would be content that would be access to all. Where restricted, that will be the people that would be on their contact list or allowed to access. And then private would be only visible to the account holder. Okay, so now Facebook required that you authenticate in order to view some of the, even, some of their public information. So what you want to do is you would allow the FB crawler, okay, once you authenticate. Now it tells you here to enter the valid Facebook logon credential to authenticate. And not everybody uses Facebook, so if you don't have that, you won't be able to see that. So how can you get around that as an investigator? What you can do is you can make one in general just for that purpose, right? And then you can tie it to an account that would be just for that purpose, because you have to use an account to validate that account access. So if you don't have one, you can make a general one. It doesn't have to be your personal one to be able to do that. Okay. Because a lot of these companies, they want to keep logs of who's looking at what, because their data is also their assets, even though it's actually some people profile and information, but it's I'm sorry about my dog. Okay, so once you authenticate and log in, we would get some information about this particular individual. And this is, so that will be for John Smith. We have that case documented, case data, and we want to save it. So this shows you on how you can investigate profile on Facebook or social media. So and Facebook also own Instagram, but this tool would only work for Facebook. Then you have to utilize other tool to be able to find profile. There are tools that have been released in Cali to be able to locate social media content, but it's all through terminal. It's a report mechanism. Okay. Question. All right. I know that most of you are trying to get this done right now as we speak. So sometime I get a little bit, I can't finish some tasks because sometimes it does take a little longer to respond. Any question? Sorry about my dog. Okay, so that was one of the hands-on exercise. As I mentioned last week, we want to read this section. This is important because some of these details can be very essential to certification and also your knowledge for this area. Okay, so it talks about how to look at, we discussed some of this already, but it also goes in depth with, policy, how to look at the cases. When you're looking at a certain suspect, you can also do reverse lookup. And we can simply use reverse lookup on the internet to look up some information. We can do that for IP addresses. We can do that for phone numbers. So if I have a phone number and I don't know who that belongs to, I can reverse look up the phone number and it's going to try to find it. You can use the internet for that. If I have an IP address, I can do reverse lookup and see what domain that belongs to. So, and to investigate email abuse, we want to have records from the server. We want to have records of who handles the email. Now, it comes to the gray area because can you really tie an individual to an email account? Not necessarily, right? Arguably in court, you know, I read some article that they say that, you know, because we know that anybody can create a certain user account. So a user account doesn't really mean that that person is that person. And so we have to prove our evidence is we are to gather the evidence to really pinpoint who that individual is. Who is this individual that is sending the email, that's accessing this email? What is the window of time? What kind of system they're accessing? So we have to answer all of those questions to really clarify who that person is. So going back, you know, if you watch some documentary about, you know, Private Bay, and even in the dark web, they talk about who really started the dark web and how, like, and there's argument about, and it went all the way to Supreme Court. There's argument about when there was instant chat messages from this individual, the accused, right? He said that it wasn't him, it was somebody else. And somebody actually, when he was in prison, they had shown evidence that that account was activated and used again, but it was thrown out of court. And then on the other side, they argue that, you know, that server had gone to somebody else and somebody actually logged in and reactivated the account. So this is why you see digital forensic is so essential, especially when we're looking at communication, email, and social media. Okay. All right. So some of the things they said that, you know, you can use media forensic tool to access Facebook, Twitter, and other social media accounts, and like LinkedIn and some of the other areas as well. We already talked about mbox format using hexadecimal editor in our lecture, right? Mbox is using, especially with Thunderbird or different type of email application. And you see that with Mac, Linux type of email application compared to Windows. Windows uses Microsoft Outlook, Outlook Express, or Windows 7 Live Mail, which uses PST and OST file. So be familiar with how you look at the files and when you look at the social media. Okay. So I want to give you bandwidth to do the lab. I will stay on a little bit for questions in case you have questions about other labs or other things. I had posted a video. I showed Alma and Chris, they already heard about this because they were in my 2 o'clock class. But I will share with you the link in case you have questions about certificate and what courses to take. We're working on the spring schedule right now. My deadline is tomorrow, so tonight I'm gonna work on it all night. So if you want to see the video, I will put in the link for our CTE website. And then I just broke down the list of classes and I made like a 9-minute YouTube video for it. So you can fast forward it to the area that you want to see. But it's also available in the catalog, which is harder to read. I understand that. So, and then I'll drop the web page over here for you. And this is an extension website to our main Moreno Valley College website. So that way you can see it listed staff, CTE counselors, all of that. So if you need to see a counselor, Ted Jackson and Belinda Flores she has a hyphenated last name, but Belinda, she's great too. And so is Ted. So you can schedule an appointment to see them. They're really good at advising students in the career technical education area. Okay. Is there anything I can do for you? Any questions I can address for you? Okay, so I have Chris, Alma, David, and Devin here. I think one of the students is not here. Okay. If you don't have any questions now, but if you do later, please send me an email or a message. Okay. I will be available to answer questions or see me during office hours if you want something resolved then. Okay, everybody, I'll let you do your lab and not use Zoom so much. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you here next week. Devin?
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
See
All
you
right,
next
good night.
week.
Bye, David. Good night.